Hi guys, this video is designed to help you visually compare Bitcoin ETF performances over long-term history and also help you make a decision about which one to buy for your investment. And today is April 26, 2025, roughly 1 p.m. in Brooklyn, New York City time. And this graph is made with Python, and I downloaded all data from Yahoo Finance. All data from Yahoo Finance are free. And as you might know, the largest Bitcoin ETF in terms of asset under management and trading volume is IBIT, which is part of the BlackRock iShare Bitcoin ETF series. And its inception date was January 12, 2024. That's why the starting point for this comparison is cut off at January 12, 2024. And I compare Bitcoin itself performance with those of Bitcoin ETFs as well as market indices such as Nasdaq, S&P 500, Japan's Nikkei 225 index, and also Ethereum. And for the around 1 year and 3 or 4 months of history, Bitcoin performance was 121% return. And IBIT, BlackRock iShare Bitcoin ETF, performance is 117%. However, BITO, the ProShare ETF, is 99.49%, and GBTC, which is owned by the asset management company Grayscale Trust, is 95%, 28. So look at that performances. If you look at only 1 year, 3 months history, IBIT's tracking error is smallest among other ETF. So in terms of this small list tracking error, if you focus only on this not long-term, but short-term history, not short-term, but a little bit longer than short-term, 1 year, 3 months history, obviously IBIT is the best choice for Bitcoin ETF investment, right? However, Ethereum lost 29%. If you look at the gray line, Ethereum lost. And Nikkei's performance over the period 1 year, 3 months is kind of a flat, only 0.36%. Nasdaq showed a 16% growth. S&P 500 showed 15.5, roughly 16% if I round up, 16%. Not bad. However, Bitcoin's performance is still best, and IBIT is second best. I just pulled out Ethereum for better close examination. Bitcoin is same period as previous plot. Bitcoin 121%, IBIT 117%, which is orange line. BITO 99.9% green. Red one is GBTC. Yeah. So based on this 1 year, 3 months history, IBIT is the best, right? And I decide to pull out the IBIT because I want to compare a little bit longer history of performance. Then I can compare GBTC and BITO to Bitcoin. Bitcoin's ticker is BTC-USD in Yahoo Finance. And based on this 3 years, 6 months history, GBTC tracking error is much smaller than ProShare BITO. BITO performance over the period 3.5 years, only 24%. However, Bitcoin itself 52%, GBTC 54% if I round up. So if you look at only 3.5 year history, GBTC performance is by far better than BITO in terms of growth as well as tracking error against Bitcoin performance, right? In this case, it is obvious choice to buy GBTC instead of BITO. Of course, if you can buy Bitcoin itself directly, it's great. But actually, personally, I prefer buying ETF than Bitcoin itself because ETF is trading in New York Stock Exchange or other regulated exchanges, but Bitcoin, as you know, are not necessarily trading on the regulated public exchanges. That's why I prefer purchasing Bitcoin ETF indirectly rather than just directly purchasing Bitcoin, which is trading in a lot of unregulated private exchanges, which can be scam, which can be fraud. You may lose your money, and right, and there can be a lot of scam that you drive into like some, what is that, pig slaughter something, right? And once you deposit money, you cannot get back your money. Anyway, and the longest Bitcoin ETF is GBTC, Grayscale Bitcoin Trust ETF. It, according to Yahoo Finance, its inception date was May 12th, 2015. So it has almost 10 years of history, right? And if you compare the 10 years of history of Bitcoin, $1 investment 10 years ago is now $393. So it's a great performance, even though there are a lot of the high volatility period. Oh, it's raining aggressively outside. Fine. And still, its performance is 393 times. $1 has been growing to 393 times in just less than 10 years. It's amazing performance by Bitcoin. However, if you look at the GBTC value went up by only 137 times compared to Bitcoin performance 393 times. So tracking error, if you look at only 3 years, 1 year tracking error, it could be just 10% or 20%, even 1 or 2%. However, if you look at the history of 10 years, tracking error is huge. So if you, based on this huge tracking error, 137 times versus 393 times, the GBTC is not a good choice if you decide to put your money in Bitcoin ETF for 10 years, right? So it is also obvious indicator and clearly speaking that long-term investment of Bitcoin ETF should be going to the smallest tracking error ETF. So GBTC may not be the right choice for the long-term investment. If you thinking about maybe 5 years, 10 years of history, horizon, investment horizon, based on this 10 years of history, big deviation between this ETF and the Bitcoin, right? So based on the most recent history, we know obviously IBIT, the BlackRock iShare Bitcoin ETF, has small least tracking error. Of course, that does not guarantee that small least tracking error between IBIT and Bitcoin will remain small least over the next 10 years. However, at least for this 1 year, 3 months period, at least we know that IBIT is a small least tracking error. Hopefully this video helps you figure out which threshold you need to have in your mind when it comes to choosing which Bitcoin ETF to buy. Yeah, and please don't forget to subscribe, click the button like, also alert. Thank you.